So what's the fanciest thing you've eaten, Nisha?
I'm not eating like many fancy things because I'm more of the, cheap sort of takeaway, make it at home sort of girl.
Yeah, so am I. Make it at home kind of girl. To the restaurateurs and chefs of the world, there are few things held in higher esteem than the Michelin Guide. Published once a year and considered to be the guide to good food around the world, Michelin itself takes the secrecy surrounding its inspection process very seriously. A fact that makes it kind of amusing that Gordon Ramsay rumbled one inspector almost immediately.
Okay, so Michelin. I'm assuming it's produced by the Michelin Tire Company.
Yeah, because a lot of people think, what is the connection between a company that makes tyres and the foremost guide to food in the world? And we'll discuss that connection in a moment. But I think what's more interesting is the pronunciation of Michelin itself, because whenever I hear someone refer to Michelin in regards to tyres, they always say Michelin.
Yeah.
But if you watch shows or documentaries like I did in researching this topic, about the guide, they refer to it as the Michelin Guide. Because obviously it's, the Michelin Guide. It's to make it sound more posh.
And the world of Michelin-starred restaurants has long fascinated me.
All the Michelin-star restaurants in Italy, or most of them, they feel French.
And that to me just smacks of, we need to make it sound more French. Because if we called it the Michelin Guide, it makes it sound like the tyre company. Instead of this high-end guide to the best food in the world, even though they're produced by the same fucking company. The more of a French spin they put on the pronunciation, the more of a dick I presume they are. They make fucking tyres, man. It's not a big deal.
It doesn't seem really random to be tyres and food. There's no connection.
So we should discuss that now, and the history of the Michelin Guide is that in the 1900s, I believe in 1900 in fact, so 1900, Michelin, the tyre company, decided that, man, there are 3,000 people roughly on the road in France right now. We need to figure out a way to get them out driving. So what we should do is produce a guide to good food and locations that they should visit around France. Yeah. And that was the first Michelin Guide, I suppose I should pronounce it. And their reasoning was that if we put out this guide and we'd say, oh, there's a restaurant in the arse end of the back country of France that you absolutely have to go try, the only people who realistically be able to go there would be people with cars, and they will go there and wear out their tyres. And who are they going to buy the tyres from? Why not the people who produced the guide? Because the first few issues of the Michelin Guide just so happen to include rest stops and garages. That's right, garage. I'm doing it now too. For motorists to go to, all of which just so happen to supply Michelin tyres. I think the connection between Michelin tyres and the Michelin Guide is very obvious if you look at the mascot, the Michelin Man. Yeah. It's he is one roly wobbly piece of shit. There's no way that guy's not just gorging himself on food all the time. And the origins of the guide are French, and there has been constant criticism levied against Michelin for saying why is it always French food that wins? This is supposed to be a guide to good food, and they contend internally that a Michelin star, which people are familiar with, is awarded not to the chef, not to the restaurant, but for the food. And I'm going to be honest here, I've had French food. I've worked in a kitchen with a highly competent French trained chef, and all of his French dishes, I just did not get them. It's snails, you can escargot, fuck yourself. None of that shit. It's awful.
Frog's legs?
Frog's legs, yeah. Apparently they're really nice. I tried one once and went, yeah, this is great, I suppose. I don't get how this is supposed to be better than a fucking big fat greasy burger, but that's why I'm not a reviewer for the Michelin Guide. Because people might not know that, but I do kind of know a bit about food and that industry, because I worked as a waiter and I'm silver service trained, and I worked in a fancy restaurant. Oddly enough, I worked in one of Marco Pierre White's restaurants as a barman and a waiter. And I still remember there's a great story I like to tell of, we had a really fancy dinner once, and there was a salmon just on the side, a full entire fucking salmon, and it was in the back room, and all the staff were just picking at it and putting it on sandwiches and stuff, and a mate of mine went, can I have the rest of that salmon if it's done? And our boss looked at it, saw that all the salmon had been picked off, and went, yeah, I guess, if you want to take that home. And I went, oh, great, thanks. Turned the salmon over and took the entire other flank. and just ended up with like 30 quid worth of salmon because my boss didn't realise.
I've grown to like salmon a lot recently.
I only started liking it because I worked in a restaurant where we served it every day, and I could just go, can I just have some salmon, please? Yeah, sure, whatever.
So, yeah, bringing it back to the Michelin Guide.
I think you mean the Michelin Guide, don't you?
Well, people say my name wrong.
Yeah, so fuck it, yeah. If all the people, you get to pronounce that wrong, go for it.
I'm assuming now it's more of a big deal because before it was just like a little guide.
Yeah. Like, Michelin stars can make or break a restaurant because they publish the guide once per year, and they always say, I think you can win up to 3 stars. And once a restaurant's got 3 stars, that's as many as you can get. And then stars can be taken away. As an idea of how seriously chefs of the world take the Michelin Guide and the impacts it can have, there was like one French chef who committed suicide because he heard a rumour that his restaurant was going to lose a star. And he was so just heartbroken and doubtful about all the work he put in. Just going, yeah. And that has resulted in a few chefs, just turning against the guide. And I think Marco Pierre White said it best in an interview where he said, at the end of the day, the people critiquing your food don't know how to fucking cook it. So why should I pay any heed to what they say? Yeah. So I'm the chef, they're the person paying for it. What the fuck do they know? Yeah. And Marco Pierre White, people don't know, is a scary fucking dude. He looks like a Game of Thrones character. He has that presence about him. And if you're wondering why anyone should pay any heed to what he says, he's the guy who trained Gordon Ramsay. He's one of the most respected chefs on earth. He's like, I fucking hate the Michelin Guide. Fuck it, it's so bad. The people reviewing it don't know anything about food. And because Michelin is so opaque in its inspection process, we'll never really know why restaurants got stars or why they didn't get stars. I don't even think we know how many inspectors they have. Michelin says around 100 worldwide, which doesn't sound like a lot for reviewing every restaurant on the planet.
So I'm assuming the inspection headquarters is a very secretive organisation.
Yeah, it has been likened to MI6 or the CIA, in terms of how secretive the Michelin headquarters is. For the people that work on the guide, not the tyre people, unless they're working on some really, really advanced high-tech tyres somewhere that we don't know about. For example, inspectors are heavily advised not to tell their family, their friends, or even their spouses what they do for a living, so they are not tempted to boast about it and thus reveal their identity. Yeah. And there are people working at Michelin who said that, I'm the head of the department that these people work for and I've never seen one. So I pay their wages and I don't know what they look like. That's how secretive they're. And they're barred from talking to journalists, they don't give interviews, people aren't allowed into the headquarters. And then when the inspectors themselves, they go to restaurants, they will use aliases, they will use disguisers, they will often go in pairs to disguise the facts. Obviously, someone eating alone multiple times in a restaurant might arise. So they go as couples, business partners, friends, that sort of thing. And they always make sure they order different things off the menu. And with all that in mind, think for a moment about how hilarious it is that Gordon Ramsay figured out that a Michelin inspector was coming to his restaurant in 5 seconds.
So I find that really amusing. How did Gordon recognise it straight away?
Well, and you're not going to believe this, it sounds so stupid it has to be made up. This is 100% true, and it happened, oddly enough, during the filming of Boiling Point, which is the documentary that made Gordon Ramsay famous, because it details his quest to win a new Michelin star for his newly opened restaurant. And he got a phone call for a booking, oddly enough, from France. And that alone, a restaurant in the UK getting a booking from France a few weeks in advance, that sounds a little bit suspicious. And the date they picked to come to his restaurant just so happened to coincide with, when inspections of restaurants in the UK were set to begin. And you might think, well, okay, that's a little bit suspicious, but how did he know they were from Michelin? And the answer is they called from Michelin headquarters.
Bought a phone call from France, and when they made that phone call, they gave their contact telephone number, the head office of Michelin in France. So you don't have to be intelligent to realise that.
He looked at the phone, went, hang on a sec, and he got his maitre d' over, who is French, and said, do you recognise that number? He went, yeah, that's Michelin headquarters. Then he immediately figured out, oh, it's a Michelin inspector. Who the fuck else is it gonna be? And Gordon, being quite a slick individual back in those days, went, okay, so this is pretty much guaranteed to be a Michelin inspector. Why the fuck else will we be getting a call from Michelin headquarters for a booking for 2 people? Remember, because they always come in pairs, to disguise the fact they're from Michelin, despite the fact they were calling from the headquarters. What we do is give them the best table in the house, and then what he did is he personally prepared all their meals, and he gave them double portions. so it looked like he gave them more food. So 'cause one of the criteria for winning a Michelin star is the food good value for money? Yeah. And just in case, obviously, 'cause they review the entire experience of being in the restaurant, he made sure all the tables around them that evening also got double portions. Like, how fucking good is that? So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna so he stacked the deck as heavily in his favour as he could. And the sad part is, well, he didn't actually win the Michelin star that year, and he was really, but I think that's not really the point here. The point is that Gordon figured them out in 5 seconds. So I think we can talk briefly about the Boiling Point documentary, 'cause it's actually really interesting to watch, knowing what we know about Gordon Ramsay now, because they have a few cutaway interviews to renowned food critic A.A. Gill, who famously was thrown out of Gordon Ramsay's restaurant and had a huge falling out with Gordon. And they have an interview with him, and you can see this guy, he looks exactly how you imagine a food critic to look, where he's just this super fucking smarmy, slimy looking dude in a suit. And they cut away to him, and you can tell this guy fucking hates Gordon. Yeah. He's like, there's no way Gordon's going to be a success. Like, his personality's too fiery. There's no way he's going to be a big television star like that. And flash forward to today when Gordon is famous exactly for that reason. Yeah. And the story goes, that A.A. Gill had shit all over one of Gordon's restaurants and then came and ate in his new one. And Gordon's like, no, fuck you. You said you don't like me. You said you don't like my food. Please leave the restaurant. And I think a while later it emerged that this guy had been really rude to Gordon's waitstaff. And he was like, no, you're an arsehole. Fuck you. Get out of my restaurant. It's my restaurant. I reserve the right to not serve anyone that is a dick. Get out. And what happened was this was used by the media to fuel basically this huge campaign that Gordon is an asshole. He's a terrible boss. I think before he was on Boiling Point, or the thing that made them want to make Boiling Point, was his appearance on a show called The Worst Bosses. And he was basically portrayed as this awful, screaming madman, which he was, admittedly, but you can immediately deconstruct that entire narrative when you consider that his first restaurant, do you know where he got all the staff from? The previous restaurant he worked at. When he walked out and said, I'm going to make my own restaurant, every single member of the wait and service staff and all the other chefs quit with him and then joined him in his vision of opening up a new restaurant. Does that sound like a bad boss, or does it sound like a guy who's just
if people are quitting to come and work for you, you obviously got something good about you.
And that was something that was ignored by the media. It's like, oh, Gordon's a terrible boss, he's awful to work for. So why did every single member of staff at the previous restaurant he worked at quit to join him? Because they believed in his vision and talent.
Yeah, they just focus on the swearing and the anger. But he has a reason to be like that. There's a lot of idiots. He works a lot of idiots.
It's a high-pressure job in, a very competitive industry, and he's very fucking good at it. And we'll leave it with just this one little thing that he does during that documentary that I really, find hilarious, where he is hired by Bramley Apple. The people who make Bramley apples, cooking apples. Oh, do a demonstration of, how we can cook with these apples, and we'll pay you $5,000. He's like, well, my restaurant is, struggling, I need money. Fuck it, I'll do it. I'll take the $5,000 and I'll do the demonstration. And he cooks with Granny Smith apples instead. And he says it on camera in a documentary he knows he's going to air the next week.
Have these delicious, wonderful Bramley's apples. But the big surprise today is what they don't realise is inside the Granny Smith apple. Not a Bramley.
And then I think in a later episode, after that episode aired, he gets people from Bramley Apple campaigning outside of his fucking restaurant for disrespecting the apple.